I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody say to me, I can't follow that. I can't follow Gorka. Now I know what it feels like. Okay. It's a distinct pleasure. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you to the task force for inviting me today. How much time do I have? 8 hours? Just 4? Oh my gosh. All right. I have some prepared remarks I'd like to go through, given the seriousness of the topic. And then if we have time, I'd love to take some questions, because my life's work, well, 26 years of my life, has just been distilled into 16 pages signed by the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. So barely 2 weeks ago, the new US counterterrorism strategy was signed. That goes right to the heart of the issues we are discussing here today at the task force. And it's great to see so many friends in the audience, so I feel very much at home. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, faith leaders, law enforcement professionals, scholars, patriots, and above all, our Jewish brothers and sisters, thank you for your unstinting leadership. Thank you, most of all, for your courage. And thank you for understanding something that far too many Americans still fail to grasp. Anti-Semitism isn't just a type of prejudice. It's not merely one of many intolerances. It's not just one item on an endless list of fashionable social grievances. Anti-Semitism, in fact, should be deleted as a word. I learned this from a colleague of mine in the first Trump administration, because really that's a politically correct phrase. Anti-Semitism is Jew hatred. It is the oldest political and religious hatred in the history of mankind. And wherever it has been tolerated, normalized, or excused, catastrophe ensues. And that sounds hyperbolic, but of course it isn't. Because what is the catastrophe that ensues after it is tolerated or excused away? Pogroms, and eventually genocide. And not historic genocide, genocide in Israel a scant couple of years ago, as we witnessed on October the 7th. I still don't know how to internalize the reality of that event, because we said to ourselves for decades, never again. And then never again became right now. Today, we gather at a critical moment for the United States and for the West itself. Just a scant 2 weeks ago, President Trump signed and released the new US counterterrorism strategy. You can put your hand down, otherwise you'll get very tired. Thank you. A foundational document intended to redefine how America identifies, prioritizes, and destroys terrorist threats based on common sense and reality. This strategy is significant, not merely because of its operational recommendations, but because of the strategies in the president's underlying philosophy. For the first time in years, the United States government is explicitly recognizing that terrorism is not an abstract phenomenon. It is ideological. It is civilizational. It is increasingly interconnected. It is about barbarity versus the civilized world. Our strategy rejects the failed assumptions of the last decade that treated terrorism primarily as a socio-economic problem or a law enforcement management issue. Instead, it restores a very simple principle. There are people, movements, and regimes which hate America, hate the West, hate Israel, hate the Jewish people, hate the Judeo-Christian moral code upon which our civilization is built. And if we fail to challenge them and confront them honestly, they will exploit that weakness. The new strategy for counterterrorism identifies three primary categories of threats: cartels, the narco-terrorists; secondarily, legacy jihadi organizations like Al-Qaeda and ISIS; and thirdly, left-wing violent extremists. It also warns about the ever-burgeoning red-green alliance between the jihadists and the left-wing extremists. This recognition is critical because anti-Semitism increasingly functions as the common connective tissue between the two. You see it in Islamist propaganda, and you see it in neo-Marxist activism. And increasingly, and I say this with a heavy heart, you see it in sectors of the online isolationist, pseudo-conservative voices on the internet. And I mean pseudo-conservatives. You cannot be an anti-Semite and a conservative because you are denying your civilization. Thank you. Our strategy rejects political fantasies, and it rejects the weaponization of national security for political purposes. It restores faith in government. But let me speak honestly, the single most persistent ideological thread connecting many of the violent movements that threaten our civilization all boil down to hatred of the Jewish people. Whether it comes wrapped in the garb of Islamist jihadism or neo-Marxist revolutionary rhetoric, whether it comes wrapped in the online conspiracy mongers, the target is often the same: Jews, the state of Israel, the Judeo-Christian foundations of our civilization. And if we're serious about counterterrorism, if we're serious about national security, we must also be serious about confronting Jew hatred wherever we see it. Not selectively, not politically, not when it is simply convenient, but consistently. Because terrorism doesn't begin with a bomb. It begins with indoctrination. It begins with propaganda. It begins with narratives meant to isolate, radicalize, and dehumanize. And today, it moves at the speed of digits. And that's what we have to take into account. Our challenge is not simply kinetic. It is informational. It is cultural. It is ideological. And anti-Semitism today is not confined to one movement. It mutates, it adapts, it migrates, and perhaps, most dangerously, it masquerades as respectable political commentary. But it's not. Because it's linked to what? Mobs in the streets celebrating October the 7th. We see it in our universities becoming incubators for Jew hatred. We see the propaganda dressed up as social justice. Let me be clear. The policies of the Israeli government, if you criticize them, that's not anti-Semitism. Debating foreign policy isn't anti-Semitism. Questioning interventionism isn't anti-Semitism. But when commentary persistently portrays the Jewish people, Zionists or supporters of Israel, as uniquely corrupting forces inside our society, that is Jew hatred. History teaches us that anti-Semitism rarely announces itself immediately with swastikas and slogans. That's not what it did in Germany. People didn't wake up one day and suddenly the Third Reich was there. It begins with insinuation. It begins with resentment. It begins with the suggestion that one ethnicity is manipulating a nation from behind the scenes. And every generation that refuses to confront those lies early enough eventually pays the price. What is that price? That price is the loss of a beautiful young couple within walking distance of where we're sitting, outside a Jewish museum, just last year. That's the price if we don't take Jew hatred seriously. I'll end on this. If you haven't seen it, I think perhaps the most important speech President Trump ever gave, apart from announcing that he's running again, is from his first year in office. Tonight, go home, go online, and look up the Warsaw speech from June of 2017. The Polish government wanted the president to give the speech downtown in some secure location. He said, no, 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 no. I want to be outside. I want to be standing next to the giant 20-foot statue of the Polish freedom fighter coming out of the sewers with a machine gun to kill Nazis. That's where I want to give my speech. And the Polish government wasn't too keen because it's outside, it's hard to secure. But the president would truck no compromise. He gave the speech. It's one of his shortest ever. It's 42 minutes long. Watch the last 3 minutes. Because the last 3 minutes are the only question that matters today. Not hyperbole, not exaggeration, fact. Because back then, at the beginning of his first administration, the president asked one question and one question alone. Does the West have the willpower to fight and defeat those who wish to destroy our civilization? That's it. That's the only question. Together we must defend our civilization. We have no choice because nothing else will be left. It is civilization versus barbarity. God bless you all. God bless the Jewish people. God bless the state of Israel. And God bless the United States and President Trump.